friend, I'm Deborah Larson.
And I'm Katie Shive.
And you're listening to the Redeeming Her podcast, where we aim to create a safe place for honest conversations that will inspire you to discover God's love through your pain. Our goal is to help you reframe your story and find freedom for the future.
So grab a latte and maybe some Kleenex, and let's dive into this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Redeeming Her. I'm Katie Shive, one of your co-hosts, and I have with me
Deborah Larson, the other co-host.
The other co-host. Well, hey, we're just getting into summer. Whenever you're listening to this episode, I don't know when that will be, but for us, it's almost June. And Deborah, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
Memorial Day weekend. You know, when you work for yourself, they kind of all blend one day into the next. And
Yes.
we had enormous rain again. We had
a lot of rain.
Huge rain. And you know what's beautiful is I'm looking at the earth, like our whole area is so beautiful and rich and green and flourishing. And then when it was done raining, I have my little garden out there. I went outside. I'm like, oh my God, I have zucchini growing. I can't believe I have a garden growing in Texas.
That's amazing. I just started my first garden ever, partially because my daughter is at that point where she's learning and it's really fun to talk and apply things. But I have my little sprouts are just coming up over the soil. And I was talking to my neighbor yesterday. I was like, this is the first thing I've grown in my whole life. Like I've actually grown from seed, and it was so cool to see that.
Isn't that cool? I know. I have onions that I bought from Home Depot or something in the garden area, and you just stick them in the ground.
Yep.
And we eat a lot of onions. Well, I tried that 2 years ago and no go. I'm thinking surely there's no critters out there or varmints that want to eat an onion, but the temperature, the water, weather is so different here. Every year it's different. And I go out there the other day and I'm like, holy God, I have this huge onion. So, I mean, the little things we get happy over. I was like,
yes.
My garden's working.
I'm a far cry from micro homesteading. I bought all of the things to make my own sourdough bread, but we're not there yet. But we have 10 chickens. So we are getting our eggs, which is really nice. But it's kind of fun to think about, having your own garden and being micro self-sustaining. But the wild thing for me, speaking about rain and everything growing, is we had a lot of rain the last couple of weeks here as well. And I got a weed eater for Mother's Day. I got an upgrade. This is my second weed eater that I've gotten for Mother's Day. But I know all of you that are probably rolling your eyes, don't hate on my husband. He's amazing. I actually wanted it, but it's like a very powerful one. And so I went out to weed eat. We back up to this huge field, and I had weed eated it to like the dirt basically. And it was so instantly gratifying because you can literally see instantly like your progress, And so I was so proud of myself, raked it all into little piles. And then I happened to go back there yesterday to look at something, and I'm not joking you, at least 18 inches tall, the grass in the last 2 weeks. Not exaggerating. I mean, I leveled it to the dirt, and then I went back there and I was like, wow, everything is really growing. Like that's just kind of life though. Like we could apply that, like you get a little bit of water and a little bit of sunshine, and it's just like growth. So,
well, let me tell you, we were talking about you in Montana and the lack of sunshine and stuff. And I had been working so hard and we felt locked in and I'm sure some of us can actually relate to this because weather is wanky all over the United States. It's just like, where did that come from? And finally, my husband had to get out and I was just working diligently because we've got deadlines. I said, I just need to go out there and cover those chairs because it's going to rain again. So I went to go sit out there, but it was warm. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here for a minute. So I sit down and I want to just challenge you guys, take time. I couldn't believe how thirsty I was to just sit in the elements. It was so remarkable. The warmth and the peace and everything that just came over me. Like, Deborah, note to self, you need the sunshine. And We do. We just need the sunshine, and we can apply it to every part of our life today.
Well, if you're watching this, you will see apparently I got a little sunshine because I sat in my backyard for the same reason last night. I was like, I have a to-do list 5,000, layers deep, and I'm going to just sit. I don't do that very often. And I've been making an intentional goal to try to enjoy my kids in my backyard in the evenings after dinner. And so I poured myself an iced tea and I went and sat on my back porch for, I don't know, hour and a half. And if you're watching, you will look, it looks like I just got a micro peel. My face is bright red. No other part of my body is red. It just, my face looks bright red. So apparently I need more sun.
Oh, I just thought you were glowing.
No, I have not seen the sun for, 9 months. And so my skin is like, that's what that is. But
Right.
anyways, cool. Well, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, life is good. And I know that sometimes people don't want to listen to all the jib jab, but if you do, then enjoy it. If not, you can always skip in and then we can just get right into the program. Last week, when we were recording, I remember the Lord talking to me about peace. And yet there was a whole different message for last podcast. And so this morning when I was laying in bed, I was talking to him and he kept saying proximity. I'm like, proximity? What proximity on what? That's like a generic type of a word and direction. And he began to just bring back some things that had to do with chaos and peace. And what does that look like with you in relationship to God and to one another? Because if we're honest, and I was brutally honest with somebody the other day, and I said, listen, my whole life is on display right now. Everything I write, everything I talk about, he's like, strip down more. I don't want to strip down more. It's not fun being just vulnerable, and it is a place of growth. So I do it because I love people and I want people to associate with the things that God is doing and to be able to unpack it in their life. And so I'm like, all right, what are we talking about in proximity? So for those of you who understand what we call the prophetic, sometimes what that really means is encouragement and words of exhortation. But prophetically, sometimes God gives us in the spiritual realm some impressions and words and or directions. And that's how we follow in my world. That's how I follow the leading of the Spirit. And so I practiced that for a long period of time. And there are some people that I trust that have been somewhat mentors in my life. And when they speak, I stop and listen because of reputation, because of quality, and because they have a vested interest in my life. I'm not like on YouTube looking for the next person to give me direction. Right. Although I do feed off of other people's, because if you're walking in the things of the Spirit, then he's saying a lot of the same messages to all of us.
Right. Yep.
So it's a few months back. Oh gosh, several months back now. We have a little Jewish mama who is now 92, and she's been in my husband's life for 40 years, and she's been in my life for 16. And so I was busy doing something, and she called him up out of nowhere. She's like 4'10". She's this package of wild.
Little woman.
She's fiery. And she's like, Raymond, something shifted. And she just began to talk from the heart of God to my husband. And then later he shared with me the message, and I'm listening, and I usually listen to unpack what he's saying. Like there are key words and they'll snag my attention. And so he did. And one of them was about moving and proximity, and where I'm taking you now. And I'm thinking, we're moving again. I'm not moving. I'm not moving. And we've been, in godly for 5 years. And I'm so grateful for where we are. We like our house and we like our life and all that kind of stuff. But I do know that when the wind blows, I do listen. And he has had that pattern in our life. We're not going across the United States. We're not moving, like things of that. And the word that she said was location, location, location. I heard it 3 times, and you must be in proximity. So I'm laying there, and he's like, I want you to talk about that in proximity. And what does that look like? Because I took it, and this is natural, I took it as distance, because it takes us a good hour anytime we go anywhere, to a grocery store and to come back. And those are frustrations that we have being in the country. But I'm happy with that. We made that decision, right?
Right,
And
right, right.
it's unfamiliar. I don't homestead out here. I'm not, building a barn and chickens and things of
Right.
that nature. We're in an HOA. So if I package that up to deliver what he was saying was, what did you think when you got the word? First of all, I measure my actions, my obedience into the speed of which I respond, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do that. And that was my first
Right.
response. No, we've moved way too many times, And yet he said, I want you to walk down the trail of when you first heard it and where you are now and the chaos that came in the middle of all that. So would you say life can be messy?
Yes. Well, I think it's interesting too, because a lot of times, at least for me, I'll get a prophetic word and I will filter it through my own mindset, or not my mindset, but like, oh, I think that's what I interpreted the Lord to mean by this. And a lot of times it's like, we know in part, but the revelation or the fullness of it comes after. And so it's interesting as you're unpacking this, because, from when she first shared that word with you to even where you are today, like you're saying, there's a lot that has shifted, and probably what you interpreted or might have thought initially is probably different. Would you say?
Yes and yes. So for the next question, what I heard was, because I have learned the patterns of how God speaks to me, I have learned what that means. And I'm not saying he does everything the same every time, but I will know that when he's stretching you to do something different or to look, then I have to go deeper. And I'm a bottom feeder anyways, when it comes to things of the Bible and the things of the Lord. But I've been paying attention to things that he literally caught my attention on. So I'm going, yes, proximity. I don't have to drive an hour anywhere. That would be good. But that means we have to pack everything up. Why would I do that? The economy is terribly inflated. Prices are ridiculous. Interest rates. What are we talking about here? And so I laid all that out. And then I remembered he talks to me in threes, 3 weeks, patterns. He says it 3 times. He said location 3 times. So I'm like, I'm not understanding. So I'm going to let this rest. Moving forward, there is a lot of dynamics that happen from the first moment that I heard that and to about 2 to 3 months. We really prayed about it in our hearts and said, whatever he wants us to do, we'll do. We've been okay with that. We're in unity. So we start looking at houses. I'm like, holy cow, kind of like you were in Bozeman this weekend. You're like, what pricing are we talking about here? This is ridiculous. When it starts at 900,000 to 1,500,000, you're like, what?
Going to say 8 to 900,000 for your, and not entry level, but close. Yeah.
Right. So I'm measuring what I have here and what it would cost me to replace it somewhere else. I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? And my interest rate's like ridiculous. So why would I change that? So we went back and forth and we're trying to have faith in it. And then my granddaughter has that accident and then some other things transition. And it's just like a lot of moving parts. And I felt like I was caught up in a whirlwind and all the debris was kind of going everywhere. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm going to lay this down and we're going to just go slow and see where we are and get our bearings. In that place, from the moment he gave it to us and when the chaos started, well, what gets challenged is your peace. And because you think that you're doing it right, like I'm totally following the same methods and the same relationship I have, but all of a sudden there was stress and then there was anxiety. I'm not an anxious woman. The other day I woke up, I'm like, why do I feel like I can't breathe? This is stupid. I don't even have that, So as I was looking that over, and I'm going to put my glasses on because they're for my age.
Because you're 33 young.
I'm 33. I'm going backwards. It's so beautiful. And I want to read the scripture, but I want to pray the scripture. So last week when we did this, you asked about, well, how do you pray and how do you use the word like that? And so interesting enough, in Philippians 4:7, it says, don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing. Okay, we're in chaos here. Things are moving quickly and I'm uncomfortable. Be saturated in prayer through each day and offer your faith-filled requests before God with overflowing gratitude. Tell him every detail of your life. And then God's wonderful peace that transcends human understanding will guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. And I'm sitting there and this morning I was like, Okay, how do I do that for me? And that would be, Father, I thank you for this morning. I'm so grateful for everything you have delivered, from your word to your direction to what I need to learn through it. So I choose not to be pulled in every direction that presents itself. And I'm not going to be worried because I have set my heart and affections on you, and I am abiding in who you are, and you live in me. So in this day, I'm releasing the power of my faith in agreement with what you have said. And with gratitude, I'm going to watch you unpack all those details in my life. I want to just receive your peace that transcends everything I cannot understand. And I'm going to guard my heart as you lead me to a place in proximity to where you want us to be. Now, to my knowledge, that is how I take the word and apply it so I will never forget Philippians 4:7. And when your peace begins to get shredded with the chaos of this and this question, and they're not bad things. It's not like somebody just died. It's not like, gosh, we're going bankrupt. None of those things are happening. It's just the busyness of our world right now can pull you out of a place of peace without you even recognizing it. So
Right.
when you look at those things, you're like, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not disobeying. But what we don't recognize is how easily we can be pulled in a natural direction, needing our attention. I have to look at my QuickBooks because we're going to be filing fiscal year taxes, things like that. I have to look at, wait, we had an overflow in the bathtub, or whatever happens in your life. It's just the little things that pull you out of that peace. And sometimes we have to pull ourselves into, remind ourselves, I'm abiding here. I trust him. I have no clue, although I have a history. I have no clue what you're doing this time. So I need to sit in peace and let you fill me up so I can start to unpack more.
And I love that because I think, if we simplify the language, the world would say, oh, you just need to be more mindful. If you just stop for a moment in mindfulness your way. I think, well, I won't go down that rabbit trail, but where I'm going with this is I've had times where exactly what you're explaining. My story looks different. I have two small kids. It's school. It's my business. It's, whatever is taking my attention. And I've had so many moments where just like you, I'm like, ugh, I have no peace, or this feels really hard, or whatever. And sometimes actually stopping to pray feels like the hardest thing. Like it's the least thing that I want to do because I don't feel spiritual and I don't feel like I have this overwhelming like affection to the Lord. It's like, okay, but here's what I will say. Every time I get into that place and I start to think about a scripture, or I will pray similar to how you did. Because what I love about what you just prayed, you didn't sound all like churchy. You're like like you're talking to God, right? Like, and a lot of times I think it's not for God. He doesn't need to hear us pray. It's to call into alignment our spirit and say, no, you will walk in alignment with the things of the Lord. And we're calling our spirit to attention, which then brings your heart and your mind into alignment. So for me, I've done that where if I feel really out of wonkiness, I will start declaring until I feel that shift. And then it's like, I could take on a whole lot more and I would still be okay because now I have this supernatural peace that, like you're saying, it circumvents your brain, whatever that word is.
It does. And I want to say that peace, or shalom, that would be the Hebrew word for it. That is not just about having a good day, being blessed, or even divine grace. It's not just about well-being. Peace is intentional. Peace is taking action. What does it mean when you have to abide with him? So here's the funny thing. I'm talking to my husband about this, and I said, so let's talk about proximity. And let's talk about peace. And he goes, all right, what is that about? Are you awake yet? Have you had a cup of coffee? Because I've been laying in bed for like an hour. And he's like, yeah, I think the coffee's working. So we're sitting there and I'm like, Lord, what does that look like in our life? And he's like, live a proactive approach to endorse peace in your life. So all this stuff, all these moving parts, we get hit in business in a real strong place. And literally, I felt like I got lightning bolt and now I don't know how to stand up because it just knocked me
Right.
down. And literally, my husband because our spouses, our friends, our kids, they all respond differently. And
Right.
he was not as steady even as I was. And it hit me hard. I'm like, wow. So what do we do with this, Lord? You just give us this direction to do. And I'm like, how are we going to do that when this happens? And so all that to be said, his piece was kind of flushed down the toilet in about 30
Sure.
seconds. And all of a sudden it was, here's what I know, like toothpaste, when you get squeezed, whatever's inside is what's coming out. So if we
Yeah.
do not stay steadfast, abiding in what he's doing, we can spit out some not so nice things. And it's fear based. And when fear comes in, it displaces love and it pushes peace out the back door. So fear comes in because we now have to deal with a horizontal thing instead of a vertical passage with the King, and the King of Kings who gives us direction, and the Holy Spirit who guides us. And so I'm looking at that going, what are you doing? So, I kindly would be, okay, but this is what the Lord says. And honey, don't lose your peace. It's a big thing for him. I'm not going to lose. He goes, they attacked my character. And I said, God's character gets attacked every day. And yes, sometimes people say those things. And I mean, just go on social media. You get good, bad, ugly, and everything else in between.
Right. You
And
attract it
so
all.
he said, okay, I've got my peace. And you could see the physical struggle. And I want to say, how many of our listeners have been the one that has the physical struggle and they're trying to keep it in, and we're trying to have faith. Faith is a choice. It doesn't mean, like you said, you feel like it. It's not a feeling. It's an intent. And so when people are saying be mindful, I want to say be conscious about what's going on, pay attention, and then grab what you need and stand still. Just stand in that moment and get your bearings. So we had some interaction, and I'm like, I can't handle this, the weight of this grief and fear and turmoil. And oh my gosh, it's so intense because I'm one of those, I call it a feeler. Other people call it empaths. I can pick up what's in the atmosphere, and it's not this is my peace in my home. It wasn't like that. So there was a couple of exchanges of words, and I just wanted to spit out a dart. I just was like,
You never.
I'm telling you, he said, just be human, Deborah. I'm like, all right. I'm not perfect. Trust me, I'm not perfect. My kids will tell you how imperfect I am. But in the middle of that, I just shut my mouth and I thought, anything that I say or do is going to just add on to the chaos that we're feeling. And we're all getting bombarded with stuff. I just need to stay where I'm at and keep going and keep doing what God has set before me. So I literally shut my mouth, went into the back room, and I just began to pray. And I put on the music. I'm like, my on-ramp is worship. So I put on the music and I started walking around the house, and I'm singing and I'm enjoying the things of the Spirit and loving God and just filling myself up with things that are higher than my thoughts. And so when he started doing that, I could just start to rejoice. And I felt the weight of all this carcass come off. And I'm like, okay. And then, my husband's still struggling. And I'm like, wow, I need to worship again.
You feel like you're bobbing in the water. You're going under, you're coming up, you're going under. You're like, I feel a little bit buoyant.
And I'm talking to the Lord about the situation. Okay, so I can't say a word. I need you to handle this. I need to go here, tap you, and you need to go here and tap him. And then you need to fix this circumstance because I totally believe in you. You are everything to me. You're my supply, you're my breath, you're my life, you're my relationship. And so, how do I incorporate that in this mess? And I know that so many people have asked me that, Deborah. I had a friend call me 2 days ago. Can you help me unpack this? I can try. I can show you how I do it, So the next morning I woke up and I decided I'm going to go spend an entire day with the Lord. I am going to go listen, read. And I found a library that wasn't noisy because now it seems like there's so much chaos even in the library. And I put on my headset and I was just listening to music and I was just studying and writing stuff out. And I was gone for like 8 hours plus. It was so beautiful and so relaxing. didn't answer anybody's text. I didn't answer the phone. I never get to do that. And all I wanted was to get my bearings back and to get centered in the place that I know that I have confidence and I have strength and I have fortitude. And so I did. And I came home and we had a very quiet evening. And I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't have anything to respond. I could feel the internal conflict going on. And I didn't need to provoke anything. I didn't need to participate. It reminded me of when I got diagnosed with cancer and I was furious. Like, this is never to touch my body. You told me, Lord, this would not happen. And Ray and I had just been married a few months actually. And I said nothing for 3 days. I just looked at him. I go, you need to let me be who I am. And I need to go retreat. And so I did. It took 3 days and never even said the word. And I just sat before the Lord and I kind of did the same thing here. I need to sit with you and you need to give me direction and then I'll follow. And so sure enough, it did. And at the end of the night, I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for him to come and talk to me about this. And nothing happened. And so I'm waiting and waiting. And yesterday morning, he was coming in, he was chatting about some stuff and he goes, can I just be really honest about something? How many times have you had that question? And you're like,
what are we walking into?
Well, and can I be honest?
Right.
Is this the day? And now y'all can laugh all you want, but let's just be honest. We all have those relationships, whether it's girlfriends, boyfriends, your boss, your husband, it makes no difference. You're like, how honest are we going to be? Because you're all filled up and you're ready to go. And so sure enough, it was this moment of this kind transaction. But it didn't satisfy enough for me. It really didn't. So I was like, okay, you're starting. What are you doing? What are you doing next, Lord? I need a little bit more. And it was really funny. He just kept saying, just be silent. I'm working. We don't recognize sometimes how much he has to unravel or deal with when we're so frustrated and we're hit with things that we really don't know what to do. It was the tension of the things that we could not control in our space. That's hard for type A's, much less any other. But it's not about that. It's about yielding and then abiding in him. And when you recognize that your peace is slipping, then this morning when he said, how about proximity? The proximity he was addressing with me during this whole last few days was, how proximal are you to me? What is the proximity that you are with me? If I live in you and you live in me and I live in you and we are one, then why are you removed from the position that you need to stay in because you're working outside of me instead of inside with me? If that makes any sense to you.
Good.
I said, so
So good.
proximity has nothing to do with where we live. He's like, no, proximity has nothing to do with what's going on in my life. He said, if you abide, Deborah, and you will wait, and my word says this, then I want to know, how proximal are you to me, to the spirit, that you stay in this cubby, if you will. And when I did, Katie, it was overwhelmingly peaceful. I slept for 8 hours. I don't sleep for 8 hours. I woke up with this and he says, how can you infuse who I am in the course of your daily life? Because what comes at you, you don't get a choice in. But how you respond will determine how close you're living with me. What am I leading for you? How am I directing you? And I went, wow. Then he says, what do you do in the midst of crisis will determine your measure of proximity and your level of peace. I'm like, wow, that's a mic drop.
I was just gonna.
Good question.
Say that again. That's good.
What do you do in the midst of crisis determines the proximity of relationship that we have together and how much you live in peace. Where's your peace? If it's gone, you're not living from here. Where am I? Are you talking to me or are you taking action? Now, when I was looking at that first word, I'm really trying to unpack what he's saying. So I'm not, again, this isn't about being right or wrong or righteous or
Yeah.
unrighteous. This is about how do you walk in a peace
Right.
in a world full of chaos. We have,
Mhm.
I'll never forget when Amelia was born.
Mhm.
And I was totally non-vax. I was not, and you guys were just becoming parents. And I remember the nurse saying, and you had not decided that, I think, with your husband at the time. And
Yeah.
the nurse was going to give her a hepatitis shot. And I'm like, now, it's not my business. And it certainly didn't want to get in the middle of your relationship with your husband or what you guys choose, because that's not my place. I was there for you, and it was so beautiful to watch her be born. And so I just simply, as a nurse, said to the other nurse, hey, well, can we do that after she gets discharged? Maybe Katie could talk to her doctor to decide if they'd like to do that. Because I don't remember having to do that when I was nursing in the hospital and as a professional. I said, can we wait for that? And she goes, well, oh yeah, of course you can. And I'm thinking, do we have to rush into all those decisions right now? And you guys didn't, I mean, it's your first baby. All these moving parts are coming up and decisions you have to make. How do you do that with the spirit when you haven't even had that conversation?
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Yeah. That's hard. You have to, I mean, a lot of times you're having to like think on your feet and, trust. I mean, to me it always goes back to it's building up that history, that history with the Lord and that reservoir of like, okay, I may not know the next step, or I may not know the answer right this second, but the one constant that I do know is your voice. I do know your character. I do know, that. And so for me, that's kind of always my default of like, oh, I might not know exactly how to respond to this, but if I take a minute and pause, I will listen for what's the familiarity of his voice or his character in that moment.
And sometimes the silence of his voice is the pause that he's looking for you to take. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes I don't hear a direction, which tells me I need to sit down and be still, wait for it, and or I need to ask a better question. Because sometimes that's when things that we don't know are snagging us actually trip us in the moment. Like I didn't see that pebble when I was running,
Right. Right.
Again, this is just about working out your walk in a world that has so much to offer us: good, bad, neutral, all of those things. When I started reading the scripture about this, he was saying to me, peace is not limited to the absence of quarrel and strife, right? It ranges more from a place of community. I'm like, how is peace community? And then he took me to Hebrews, and it was beautiful. I'm going to see if I have that scripture here real quick. And it was Hebrews 12, I believe, 22 to 24. And yes, it is. Those who believe you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God. Here's the place. We're talking proximal, right? The heavenly Jerusalem, and to the countless thousands of angels in a joyful gathering. You have come to an assembly of God's firstborn children. Now, this really doesn't even make sense when we're talking about this, but stay with
Right.
me. Whose names are written in heaven, because you have come to God himself, who is judge over all things. You have come to the spirits of righteous ones in heaven, who are now made perfect. So when I read that, I think, oh, when I get to heaven, I'm going to experience this because I will be made perfect. And yet today, walking in this life, he says, Kate, you're righteous. You're a righteous woman. Oh, what's unrighteousness? Well, you're not unrighteous, because the blood of Christ
Right.
and the belief that you have is a covenant in relationship. So you could do something wrong. Your child could do something wrong, but that doesn't mean they're not a shive. You know,
Right.
we don't
Right.
cut them off. And so you're still made righteous, because the firstborn has to do with you deciding that you were going to believe in God's firstborn, and you have collaborated there. And now he's making you perfect. It is a process here on the earth. And in this place is because we have to constantly go, I have a community that lives here. I have a company of angels. I do not have to fight the chaos on my own. I get to look at those spiritual that have gone before us, who have paved a way, what they did. What are the angels doing? What did Jesus do with all of that? And how does that make a difference for my here and now? We're
So
never
good.
alone, right?
No,
No.
I love that. I just keep thinking of the verse and I'm trying to figure out how to tie this down and I don't know the address, but it says after having all you've done, just stand.
Yep.
And so often when I've been in seasons of chaos or overwhelm, even if it's good overwhelm, like you're saying, we can have a lot of really good things happening all at once, and that can be just as equally overwhelming.
Yes.
Um, and I've had times where I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, you just feel like you're in the swirl, And sometimes I think strength and peace looks like just standing. It's not necessarily advancing, but it's not retreating. It's confidently standing in a posture of, I know who I am. I know whose I am. I don't maybe know what the outcome will be, but I know he's in my future. And so I'm going to stand from a place of peace because I know that it is all going to work out. And right now, the best thing I can do, it's kind of like when you get lost, don't frantically try to go search because then you get lost. Sometimes strength, I think, is also standing.
It is because he didn't ask you to be a doer. He asked you to
Mm-hmm.
be with him. Abiding is different than doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to sit in it's almost like marinating because I know this and I don't know this. So I'm going to sit here until I can assimilate both and get a clear directive
Right.
of where this is. Like it literally in crisis is probably the hardest. I'm thinking, how do we abide in joy?
Yeah.
Because because we could be happy and we get all excited and we want to go celebrate. And I'm like, do we stop for a minute and go, thank you. That joy is my strength. We forget those. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Where is my joy in crisis? If you lose your peace, then you have chaos. And then fear comes in, pushes out love. Where do you think joy goes? Oh, now you're worried. So we see all these moving dynamics and we're like, what has that got to do with that? Because when he has given us everything and life is happening to us, all this is about not what we think. It's not how far I'm going to be away from somebody. It's not that our loved one is gone and I can't talk to that person or I moved across the world here and I had to start my own new community. And it's not community because
Right.
it's COVID. And now we're still trying to come back together and have relationship. And frankly, I'm sick of the computer.
Yeah.
I just want to come over to the house, Katie, and have a cup of coffee and go for a run.
Get sunburned on my back porch.
Sure, we
Welcome.
get
Come
sunburned.
anytime.
Yes. So, how about focusing on what we choose in joy and practice that feeling? Because when the joy of the Lord is your strength, like you said, you're like, it just comes over me. I feel like I can do anything. And it's
Yep.
very true. That's what he's created us to be and to do. And I'm looking at this going, we have a community of support. We have those that have gone before, those that are
Yeah.
called to be here. What are we doing with our peace? What is invading it and who's trespassing? And how do we say, no, thank you? Very kindly with full authority saying, I will stand with the Lord, period.
Yeah.
And he will be
Right.
my defender. And I have to tell you that yesterday, we had this conversation because I'm waiting for God to make this big change for me, right? It's not a
Right.
huge thing, but there was this breach of okay, I feel at risk because you're doing these things and it's making me feel uncomfortable. And he can't make that happen for me, but I have to deal with it from here. And in a small space, whether it's 30 feet or 4,000 feet, doesn't make a difference. You
Right.
feel this kind of traction. So
Yep.
I was sitting there and we he wanted to watch what is it called? The Rookie. He likes the Rookie show.
That's a good movie. Yep.
He loves that. So he likes to watch that. And I will work till 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And then I'll come in and sit down for an hour just to, decompress. And so we were sitting there and the pillows were all lumpy behind me. And I'm like, I don't want this. I just want to sit. So I actually scooted over and sat next to him. And it's not like it was bad. We just haven't done it. We got dogs and we've been caulking and cleaning and just taking care of the house, just doing some things around the house. And I sat there and I used to, when we were first dating, I used to swing my leg over and drop him on his lap, So I thought, I'm going to do that. So I did. And it was so funny. You could feel the power of touch. And it
Mm.
literally just calmed everything. And it was actually getting better. And he's like, I'm really sorry that I've been kind of just a puke. And I said, I appreciate that. And so the presence of the Lord came, and this intimacy, including the Spirit, kind of settled on both of us. And we were sitting there and just holding hands and waiting. And the Lord was like, remember. And I said, you did it. He goes, I've already handled it. And he's just now learning how to express it. When you think at our age, we know a little bit.
Mhm.
And
A little.
yet he said, do you think there's ever a day in our life that we're not learning? And I said, I
Mm.
can't imagine until we are made perfect with him and we're fully restored in union or reunion, that we're in this beautiful place that we can experience him. And he's still teaching us how to lay down little things and learn new, because our culture is shifting so quick. Everything is new. It's always new.
Mm.
Tomorrow it's something this, and then it's another this. And it doesn't matter. And so we still have this chaos going on. And I said to him this morning, this doesn't matter what happens today. This piece is amazing. I don't care who you see, where you go, because I don't do that. That's not an issue to me. Do what you need to do. Let me know. I do what I need to do. And it's a good relationship. And he comes in and he goes, when are you podcasting? And I said, oh, probably about 10:30 or 11 or whatever that looks like. And he says, okay, I want to handle this for you. So he starts clearing out the house and making it peaceful and quiet. And he's like, I want to protect this, Deborah. This reminds me of when we dated. And I was like, wow.
You're like, I will take that shift.
All because, and after we talked about it, I said, so proximity, honey, is not about location outside of us. It's about location inside of us. How close are we living that he can keep our peace and I can keep my peace with him, that we can stay in unity and clear up misunderstandings? Because if you know anybody, relationships, the enemy is always trying to divide and conquer. Don't say this, don't
Mhm.
say that. That's going to trigger this. Well, what about that? But he don't like this. Well, the kids are like, mommy, can I talk? Mike, it's just all those things that happen. He's like, here, Deborah, live in proximity with me. And when you do that, you have a community of kingdom in the atmosphere, in your earth, and amongst one another. And that brings the power of unity, which brings us together for full authority, that I can literally say, Kate, I just need your agreement. Just know,
Mhm.
just agree with heaven. I don't need your opinion. I love you and I think you're wise. But there are days like that. I don't need your opinion and I don't need you to pray your will. I just need you to say yes, whatever she's doing, Lord, whatever you're doing with her, I say yes. Power of agreement will break things so fast, and it will shift if we're living in proximity of the King of Kings that lives in you.
Mhm. I love that phrase. I don't need your opinion. I need your agreement. It's so powerful, like so powerful just to step into agreement, to align your yes. You dropped some good one liners today.
Well, I've been walking through my own learning season, and it wasn't like I wasn't learning. I decided we were picking up, we're going to do this. I'm almost finished with all of that. It's getting ready to launch. I'm so excited about what it is, even though I feel like he's like stripping me down like King David and I have to go dance in front of. I look at that, I go, I'm not David. I understand that.
You're like, got you. Mm-hmm.
But we promise to be authentic. We promise to be real
Yeah.
and vulnerable. None of us are perfect. And I literally have had 3 people call me and talk to me. One stopped by. I need you to help me understand this. I go, oh, well, lo and behold, I'm kind of walking in the same territory. So,
Right,
if
right.
it's
Yep.
happening to you, it's happening to
Yep.
others. So let's practice that. Let's practice the text that says agreement. I want to
Okay.
encourage you. If you have a prayer partner or someone or you want us to agree with
Mhm.
you, then I just want your comments, because I don't care when we watch this and when this all comes together in a place
Yep.
of interaction, the word of the Lord stands. It never
Yep.
falls. It always
Yep.
produces what it was intended for. So I want to
Yep.
encourage you to do that. I think if we take action on that, we might find a whirlwind of change where the angels are doing it. And I'm like, I'm in.
I'm in. I agree. I'll partner with that. I'll give you my yes.
Yes. That's exactly what we need. You just need yes. I don't need to know why or how come. I don't need to know the details. Not that I wouldn't listen. It is not important. What is important is he is here and available to us, and we can tap in right here in a quiet place, in a public place, and say nothing. And he's talking to you and like, yes, I say yes to that, Lord.
Yes, I love that. So good. Well, I love that today just felt so practical but deep. And that's what I love about the Lord. The things of the Spirit is they're practical and they're deep and it works. So
And then we
on
get
that
floaties.
note, and then we what?
And then we get floaties. We just get to
And then
rest
we
on
get
the water.
Yes, we get to relax and rest. That's my new word today, relax.
That's good.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. I just love these times to connect and just one, have conversation, but then two, invite others into this. And so if you are listening, first of all, thank you so much. But you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we will be in your ear or your car or your home next week.
That's right. Thank you so much. Be blessed. Thanks for tuning in with us. We pray that you're encouraged and find the truth that will set you free on your journey.
To learn more about Redeeming Her ministry or how to partner with us, please check the show notes for links or visit RedeemingHer.com. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.